Fellow Mecha Tactics fans, we've got a new thing on the horizon to look out for. That's right, we finally have a release date for the long-awaited remake of Front Mission 3, as well as some insight into some of the new features that are being added to it, as well as a new trailer for the game. Today we're going to be talking about all of that new info, as well as my thoughts on the remake trilogy in general. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel. Hello everyone, if you enjoy what I do, including coverage of upcoming Mecha Tactics games such as Front Mission 3, as well as every other tactics game on the genre that I can possibly find the time to cover, then a like on this video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. So yes, Front Mission 3 is nearly here. It's about a month away as we found out that the release date for the Switch version of the game is June 26, 2025, and it will be releasing for $35 US. Most likely we'll see a release on other systems and PC sometime later in the year, maybe next year. That's around how long it took for the first two games to come out on other platforms as well. And as far as we know, there's no real reason to think that would change now. That's pretty good news, less than a month away, and I'm pretty excited to finally be able to check this one out, as I've heard very often that Front Mission 3 is the best game in the franchise. I notably somehow managed to never play any of these games growing up, and while I did play and enjoy Front Mission 1, I did not play Front Mission 2, the remakes that is, due to some issues that we'll talk about later in the video. For now though, let's go over everything that we've learned. If you'd like to check out the new trailer that just dropped for yourself, I'll have it linked in the description, and I'll also have it playing in the background of this video. Once again, published by Forever Entertainment and Megapixel Studio, there's a few notable features that have been added to the game to bring it up to a more modern standard, as you might expect given how the first two games were handled. As far as we are aware, all the existing gameplay content is here and intact, with the two different storylines, all the various different characters, combat mechanics, etc. We also have the improved graphics and animations that they've been showing off for all three games, which I think are actually pretty dang solid, all things considered. I definitely enjoy watching Front Mission 1 Remake in action. All the music has been reorchestrated, and if I had to guess, you will probably have the option to switch back and forth between the original version of the OST as well as the remade OST as it was in the first game. We have a new system for Wanzer customization. We'll be able to put on different camouflage options, which is pretty cool. You can see it going on in the trailer at a couple of points. Be a nice option to have something that's a little bit more in-depth than the simple color customization that was in one remake, although that itself was also very enjoyable, allowed me to actually get my squad kitted out in the colors that I felt suited them, but having some fun camo customization is never a bad thing. Finally, we have a new mention of this new quick combat mode, which I'm not entirely sure what to make of. Really, all we know is that it's billed as being able to jump straight into the action with this fast-paced battle mode. I don't know if this is just like a training mode that you can send Wanzers into to test out their combat, or if it's like a skirmish mode that you're able to do with the AI. I'm assuming not other players at the moment, although there have been multiplayer modes added to the other games, so maybe that's a possibility. Curious to see what that one's going to entail. Really, I'm just excited to get my hands on this title in general. I've heard so much about it for so long, though I do have some trepidations about what state the game is going to be in when it releases, which I guess means that we should probably talk about how the other games released and the issues that people have had with them as well, and why I and others kind of feel that way. So when Front Mission 1 Remake first launched, it was good. It was fine. It was very much an old-style game. It wasn't a complete remake from the ground up in terms of the way combat functionality was, and you could definitely feel that. It felt like an old PS1 style tactics game, but I personally really enjoyed that because that's the era of the genre that got me into these games as a whole. I enjoyed the characters, the writing, the OST, all of it. It was a fun package, and while I didn't wind up actually streaming that much of it, I played through the entire thing, both campaigns, on my own time, and very much enjoyed myself. Add on to that the fact that there was a lot, and I mean a lot, of different patches and updates and sort of kind of free DLC that was added to one remake and has continued to be added to one remake over the years, and there's a lot going on there now that makes me really happy with the state of that title. Where we have more issues and where more concerns come from was Front Mission 2 Remake. I was initially going to pick this one up just to be able to play it for myself and check it out because I enjoyed the first game, but then basically as soon as it dropped, I saw a lot of discussion about major issues with the game. Bugs, visual glitches, just low overall visual fidelity in general, and perhaps most damningly, an absolutely brutally poor translation and localization that was pretty much universally panned by anyone that I saw talking about the game, and it seemed to really take the wind out of the sails of this remade franchise as a whole. So much so that I still to this day have not picked the game up. Now, looking into it now for this video and just, again, seeing people talk about it over the years since it came out, it seems like these things have all been fixed, and I'm definitely interested now in picking up 2 and playing it for myself to see how the series has evolved before Front Mission 3 Remake comes out. The real question here is going to be, what state is 3 going to launch in? From what few previews we've seen, such as at the 2024 Tokyo Game Show, 3 is looking fine. Some people have criticized some of its stiffness in terms of animations and the like, which I would say is probably not that big of a concern, because I at least felt like that was pretty much just how the first game looked, and from what I saw of the second game, same. I don't know how different that might be from the initial versions of the game, but overall, like, you're piloting around big, clunky mechs in turn-based combat, like, yeah, it kind of feels like things are going to be a little like stilted and slow. That kind of suits the overall vibe, so I kind of like it. But from what we've at least seen in the most recently released trailer, things do look pretty smooth, pretty fluid. There's good animations going on and cutscenes in combat. I like how dynamic some of the different camera angles are and the impact of some of the different gunfire and overall style of the weapons that we've seen. It all looks good, and to me, that's been the best thing about the Front Mission series, is it looks fun in motion. It is fun to play and watch these giant mechs tear into each other, destroy the environment, and overall be wild and crazy. The big question for me is, what is the translation and localization going to be like? Are we going to have a bunch of spelling errors? Are we going to have a bunch of mistranslated words, misleading descriptions of weapons and skills and the like? Because that can absolutely put a major damper on a game, and it's something that would make me much more down on the title until it eventually gets patched. With any luck, that won't be the case. Having kind of dealt with it already with Front Mission 2 Remake, I would imagine that Forever Entertainment and Megapixel would probably be more on their game with the third title, but that's really my biggest concern, and it seems like the biggest concern of most people who are reacting to this trailer as well, from what I've seen thus far in comments and on Reddit and Twitter and all that type of good stuff. Even if there are issues with the game when it launches, though, the studio and its publisher has a pretty good track record at this point of making sure that things get cleaned up after the fact. So even if there is kind of some rough weather at the start, I am pretty confident that alongside 1 and 2, 3 Remake will absolutely be a very solid title to pick up down the line, and I absolutely plan to do so, even if I don't wind up getting it and checking it out at launch. Regardless of what happens with Front Mission 3 Remake, though, I'm really just happy to see that there's more Mecha Tactics games coming out, and that will hopefully inspire others. Things like Kriegsfront Tactics come to mind, which is absolutely one of the top indie tactics RPGs that I'm looking forward to, and it's going to be fun to be able to compare and contrast it to Front Mission 3 Remake, now that they're both going to be out in a relatively similar-ish time frame. I'm curious, though, for those of you who either are diehard lifetime Front Mission fans, or people who picked the series up more recently with these remakes, potentially got burned by Front Mission 2 Remake, what are your thoughts on this new trailer? What are your thoughts on what we've seen thus far? Are you going to be picking the game up when it comes out? Or are you going to be waiting for any potential patches and maybe picking it up on a different platform like PC or something like that down the line? I'd love to hear about all of it, as well as if you guys would like to see me cover it once it does wind up coming out. Any more information that we do get prior to release, I will absolutely be covering, of course, but post-release is a potentially different story, so chime in with your thoughts on that in the comments as well. For now, I'm going to wrap this one up here. I've got a lot of other projects cooking, including a very long-form discussion about Fire Emblem, so look out for a lot more fun stuff coming up on the channel. And of course, as always, my name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other, y'all. Bye now.